Hi, Karen Gray Parker here with your weekly Human Design Evolution Report. We're having one of those weeks where I apologize if you see me looking down on our notes, but there's just a lot going on, so I want to make sure I don't miss a thing. So we're going to start this week talking about the retrograde-a-palooza that we're in. And part of why I want to bring this up and talk about it is because when we see a massive retrograde cycle like this, it certainly can leave us kind of feeling like we're stuck in a rut, or like we're really having the same conversation or the same argument over and over and over again, both with ourselves, inside of ourselves, and also out in the world. So it's a time when we can really feel like the stuckness feels really loud. It's a time when we can feel like we're kind of stuck in Groundhog Day, if you've seen that movie, repeating the same thing over and over again. And we're sort of trapped in this never-ending narrative. So the reason why I'm telling you this is because the only way out is A, patience, and B, we have to really have this loud narrative in our face and in our head and in our hearts in order for us to really see what we don't like about it, because our number one job is, and if you've been watching me in this whole year, I've been saying the same thing over and over and over again. Our number one job right now is to rewrite the narrative we're telling about who we are. Rewrite the stories about what we think is possible. Rewrite any of those places where we're telling a story that's keeping us stuck, blocked, broke, limited, full of hatred, divisive, shut down, despairing, whatever. Those narratives that are keeping your life from being less than expansive, that are causing you to say no instead of yes, that are causing you to avoid doing whatever it is that you need to do to get yourself out and expand it into the world, the full expression of the true story of who you are, whatever it is that's holding you back. This is the time to write that narrative, rewrite that narrative, revisit that narrative, tell a new and better story about every area of your life. And I've been saying this over and over again, literally do it. Like as if once upon a time there was a person who write out your story as if it's a narrative or a story, and look at the narratives and the stories you're telling about every single part of your life. What's your story about money? What's your story about your health and wellness? What's your story about your relationships? What's your story about peace and the possibility of expansion in the world? What's your story about feeling powerful? What stories are you telling about yourself? And if you don't like it, literally turn it into a creative project, writing project, or an art project, and tell a new one. Tell a better one. Tell one that is really worthy of who you are. Because if you tell a story that's big enough and aligned enough and authentic enough, that is the true story of who you are, that speaks to the potential of what you could be creating. If you land on that story with enough passion, it's going to give you the power to devote yourself through action to taking all the next right steps necessary to actually put that vision, that dream, that possibility, that story into form in your life, not only for yourself, but ultimately for the whole planet. So your story matters. Your story matters because you matter. And your story matters because the world is waiting for us to tell a big enough, juicy enough, good enough story so that we can start living into that story and start blotting out all those places where the narrative that we're living as a collective species is so not worthy of who we truly are. Your story matters. It does. It's a small part of a story that adds to a bigger story that is in desperate need of retelling. And the planets are supporting us in doing that. So back to our retrograde-a-palooza. We have right now, this is the part where I have to get into details and make sure my mouth doesn't talk faster than my brain. Right now we have Jupiter retrograde, Saturn retrograde, Neptune retrograde, Pluto retrograde, and starting on Thursday, August the 19th of this week, we have Uranus retrograde. Now, most of these planets stay retrograde until the end of October. Neptune stays retrograde until the end of December-ish, I think. And Uranus goes direct not until January of 2022. Now, anytime we have a retrograde cycle in a planetary in a planetary movement, it's not actually going backwards. It just looks like it is. But astrologically and archetypically and thematically, a retrograde cycle means we're getting a do-over. We're getting that internal opportunity to dive in deep and explore what has come before. It's a contemplative cycle. It's an introspective cycle. It's a review cycle, because once that planet starts to go direct station again, then we literally, as I said, get a do-over, except this time we get to do it better because we've done the work, right? So those retrograde cycles really invite us to go on to the inner plane and really ask ourselves, what's going on? What am I learning? What have I learned? What do I want to do different? How do I want to change things? Of course, this goes perfectly hand in hand with the theme of tell a better story, because now you get a chance to go quietly inside and really look at what stories are you telling and what needs to be rewritten. All right, so let's talk about Uranus. That's my theme for today. Uranus is a planet that has the potential to bring enormous transformation. And honestly, the transformation that Uranus brings is usually of the rug getting pulled out from under your feet kind of transformation. Definitely Uranus brings unexpected twists and turns in the plot line, big shakeups, a lack of stability, and really an energy that has the potential to take things down. But whatever gets dismantled in a Uranian cycle is getting dismantled because it's no longer working. It's gotten stagnant. It needs growth. And so it's sort of like Uranus is the cosmic pruner. It comes along and sort of takes out everything that's dead or that isn't really supporting the fulfillment of life. Now, the energy of Uranus is usually associated with innovation, with revolution, rebellion, which is really kind of the immature expression of revolution, liberation, and freedom. So what happens, it also sort of holds the energy for things like economics, but certainly when it's in a Taurus position, forgive me, when it's highlighting Taurus, Taurus is the energy of everything that grounds us. It's all the things that create the firm grounding and the foundation under our feet that allows us to grow and expand. So it's things like economic systems, and Taurus is all about systems. It's economic systems, it's financial systems, it's school systems, healthcare systems, government systems. It's everything that is foundational around how we come together collectively and move into abundance and stand in a place where we all know we have the support necessary for us to move forward into the next cycle of our creative capacity. When Uranus is in Taurus, it shakes things up. and it shakes things up a lot. Okay, so just for reference point, Uranus has been highlighting Taurus since, let me go back and look at my notes, since 2018. Oh, I have the wrong papers here. Oh, great, now I have to guess. It's been since March 6, 2019. Okay, March 6, 2019. So March 6, 2019, and it's going to be highlighting Uranus until July the 7th, 2025. So Uranus is highlighting this energy of systems that need to come down in order for us to build something new, something more equitable, something more fair, something more peaceful, more abundant, more sustainable. The last time Uranus was in this position, we had the rise of fascism. We had the Great Depression. We had the Holocaust. We had some pretty big cataclysmic events that really shook us up. And in the end, when they spit us out on the other side, we had a lot of recalibrating that we had to do that ultimately pushed us into a renewed cycle of growth and abundance. Certainly the potential for that is here, but it's a long cycle, you guys. It's a long cycle. And it's a cycle that, when things start to fall apart, creates a lot of fear. Movements are based, if you want to create a movement is always rooted in the idea that we can get back to where we were before. That's why we call it conservatism, right? In a conservative movement, there's a fight for let's go back to the good old days. Let's go back to the way it was before. Uranus says, sorry guys, as much as you would like to have that fantasy come true, ain't happening. We are on a momentous path. We are moving forward, and it's never going to be back the way it used to be. And so we really have to explore How do we take the essence of what was so precious to us in the before cycle? What is it that we are longing for from before that feels like it's missing now? How do we find that, define it, and then how do we grow that in a new way in the future? I'm saying it this way because if we don't understand that there is value in both conservatism and innovation, and we look at that place in the Venn diagram of the two where there's an intersection point and we build from that intersection point, if we don't do that, we're not going to find peace. We're not going to find sustainability. We're not going to get out of this divisive and honestly at this point really tedious back and forth conversations that we keep having about the same stupid stuff. And really Uranus says, look, guys, if you're not going to have the right conversations, I'm just going to keep shaking things up more and more and more until the pain is going to be so blatantly, horrifically obvious, you're going to have to do something about it. And of course, the doing something about it starts first right now with telling the same story. We are being challenged to find the ways in which the me serves the we. That's really the ultimate expression of the Uranus. It asks of us, how can we use the power of who we are to better serve the greater good? And what can we do from that compassionate place and that self-loving place of knowing that we are something, each and every one of us, something of value, that we all each have a unique and vital place that we play in the world. How do we find that place? How do we serve that place? How do we sustain that place? And ultimately, how do we use that place, that story of who we are, to better serve the world? That's our exploration on a big scale, and of course translating that into new collective infrastructures, ways in which we measure and value and give to each other are changing. And certainly I would say, especially in some of the energies that we're seeing with Uranus going through the gate 2 retrograde and then the gate 24 retrograde, we're looking at economics. We're looking at how do we take care of each other? How do we make sure that we are allowing for the goodness that is really our birthright? And how do we, once we have our own goodness fulfilled, how do we turn around then and increase the blessings and abundance of others? That's what we're working on this fall. And that's certainly what we're working on as part of our personal narrative. How much good are you willing to allow yourself to receive? And if you're not willing to allow yourself to receive a lot, if you're justifying and settling and rationalizing less than what you want, change that story, please. Because the more you have, the more you have to give. To quote again, second week now straight, the late Paul Wellstone, we all do better when we all do better. So do better so you can help other people do better. And certainly I would say here in the Western world, for most of us, we almost have I think we have an obligation to do so because we're privileged and we have a lot. We have a lot to share and give. And there are a lot of people in the world who really need us to do our work and turn around and lift them up as well. That's me on my soapbox today. So if that doesn't resonate with you, sorry, but I feel like that's the only way we're going to save the world and create an abundant, sustainable future. All right, that's Uranus. That's the rest of the backwards planets retrograde. So let's talk about Sun and the Earth this week. On Tuesday, the Sun moves into the gate 29, the gate of devotion. The Earth moves into the gate 30, the gate of passion. The gate 29, the gate of devotion, which is my conscious Sun, is an energy that reminds us that to change the narrative, to change the story that we're living in, we have to do the mundane day-to-day work. That there is a tremendous amount of awakening and potential and direction shifting and expansion in the energy of love when we are present to the day-to-day steps necessary to build what we're building into the future. There is an element of really chop wood, carry water in this gate. And this gate asks us this week, what are we devoted to? What are we committed to? Are we saying yes to the right things? Are there things in our life that we need to say no to because they're taking away our energy from our right path? Are we getting distracted from our right lane? And do we need to say no to these extraneous things to bring us back into the middle so we can be more productive, more effective, more efficient? The Earth grounds us in the gate of passion, meaning you can't do the day-to-day grunt work if you hate your life and you hate the direction you're headed towards. You got to have that flame, that fire, that passion underneath your feet or in your belly, if you will, to get you to do the daily work, the daily rituals, the daily practices, that devotion, that commitment, in order for you to see the results that you're building towards, or to know that those results are coming. Even if you can't see the results, that passion, that fire sustains you while you do the work. So ask yourself this week, What am I passionate about? What am I committed to? How can I really harness that energy of passion and commitment and daily devotion to making my dreams manifest? Is there anything you need to take out of your current reality so that you can get your focus back, get back in your lane? And in conjunction with those explorations, I would just also add, this goes back to Uranus, really give yourself some time this week to ask yourself, what happened from January until now? What's been going on in your life? What have you been learning? What are your big lessons? What are your big takeaways from this year so far? What perhaps do you need to change as we go into this Uranus retrograde cycle that would help you expand more on what you really want? What ways do you need to perhaps integrate what you've learned? What shifts and changes are you making that are going to create more room for you to step into a bigger, bolder, more honest expression of the true story of who you are? We got a full moon coming up this week. Good time to release and let go. So really ask yourself, what's keeping you from stepping into your passion? What's keeping you from devoting yourself to taking those daily steps towards fulfilling your dreams and your goals? What do you need to rewrite? What stories do you need to tell so that you can fully tap into the abundance that you deserve, the abundance that is your natural state and your birthright? And how do you fully activate your innate creative capacity? That's it. It's a long week in that respect. Long report. Have a great week, short week, great report, long report. I will talk to you all next week. Have a good one. Bye.